All right, let's get into this. So, Anthony Duclair, right here, wants out of Arizona. He has currently produced 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points in 32 games. Duclair came over from the New York Rangers. He scored 7 points in 18 games. Famously, the Rangers fans were not happy about losing Anthony Duclair, and a question was asked: do you think the Rangers can get Duclair back? They can try. Duclair, 20 goals, 24 assists, 44 points in 81 games. His first full year in Arizona, dropped to 15 points in 58 games, ended up playing in the minors for a while last year, and this year 14 points in 32 games. Duclair, in my eyes, is a 15/20 goal scorer, probably a 45 point guy, decent middle range forward. Somebody's going to want to pay for him, and it's a matter of how much. Well, I think with Arizona, it's a little more complicated. They've got a lot of guys who they can rent out. Tobias Reeder's an RFA. He's arbitration eligible. He makes a little over $2 million. Richardson, UFA at the end of this season, makes $2 million. I think if anybody was willing to offer anything for Richardson, I think it would happen because Richardson's been hurt a lot. His points totals, which were never stellar to start with, they're just not there now to justify paying him $2 million a year. And I think he's a good likely rental at the deadline. I would think maybe a third rounder at most. Maybe a B-level prospect for him gets it done. Duclair, Domi's an RFA at the end of the season. Ronaldo's a UFA. I don't expect him to be back. Freddie Hamilton, who was just picked up on waivers, is RFA with arbitration rights. Luke Schen's UFA. Kevin Connaughton's UFA. Antti Ranta's UFA. Wedgwood's restricted free agent with arbitration rights. Now, I fully expect Wedgwood to stay in Arizona. I think he's played well enough that Arizona will just throw him a contract just to keep him for a little while longer. I don't know with Ranta. See, it's funny because he's only making $1 million, which makes him perfect for a team that might be cash strapped or cap strapped, so to speak. Not necessarily cash strapped. It's totally different. There are teams that are at the cap that have tons of money and can't spend it because they're already at the cap. So for them, Monty Ranta would be a very attractive option. They could get as much as, I would think, a second and a prospect. I don't think with his play this year that he's still worth a first, because I don't think he's established himself as a starter this year. And he's had injury problems too that have prevented him from getting that status. So I think he likely goes. I could see a second and a prospect for him. And I'm coming back to Duclair. I'm just setting this out because there's something else that I wanted to discuss when it comes to Arizona. Connaughton, I don't think they keep him. I think he's going to end up being a rental for a contender at the deadline, just as a number 7 defenseman. Think like Hainsey and Straight last year. Luke Schenn, UFA. He could be an attractive free agent addition if you're looking for a 6-7 guy. I don't know how many more years Schen's going to be in the NHL. I have questions in my mind about whether he's got a couple years left or maybe he can find that groove and stay in the league another 5 years. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, there's non-expiring guys who get brought up. Oliver Ekman-Larsson gets brought up a lot. Now, he's UFA in 2019. He's making $5.5 million. I would state that his numbers, the numbers he's put up, means he'll probably get a raise in 2019. I don't think he'll get a huge raise. I don't think he'll get the same kinds of numbers as what Doughty and Carlson are looking at. And not only that, but Arizona can afford, under the cap, to keep him at a higher rate. Now, I know they would have an internal cap, where here's the amount of money we make, here's the amount of money we can spend. Might price him out, but Goligoski comes off in 2021. I still think that was a weird signing. I think this one kind of hamstrings him a little bit, unless they can find somebody to take that contract. Hjalmarsson is UFA 2019, $4.1 million. I can't see him being a long-term Arizona Coyote. That gives the money to afford on Ekman-Larsson. Demers, who they just acquired in a trade not that long ago, 2021 UFA, $3.93 million. I'd like to pause and point out, Demers was willing to go to Arizona, not Vancouver. Just let that sink in. Just let that marinate for a little while. It's one of those things that you look at and you go, wow, really? Enjoy Arizona. Uh, so back to Duclair. Duclair wants to go somewhere else. His totals dictate he's about a 20 goal scorer. He's probably going to get you a decent return. You're not going to get rid of everybody unless Chayka loses his mind and decides to lose everybody, which he could. He could. The one thing I've learned in the time John Chayka's been running the Arizona Coyotes as a general manager, he doesn't do anything the traditional way things are done, a conventional manner, and he has a vision of the team that leaves a lot of us confused. Jim Benning takes a lot of flack for bringing in veterans when the Canucks are rebuilding. I don't see a big difference with the way Arizona's done things. And now we're already talking about Hjalmarsson. We're talking about Ronta as being moved out. These are guys who were brought in for assets last summer. And I'm not even putting Stepan up there because I don't think Stepan at this point in time is a tradable asset. At that cap hit, with that production, I don't know that anybody's going to touch Stepan. And I don't think Arizona's in a position to trade Stepan. So what's left? Duclair will go. Somebody will bid for Duclair, and they'll get him probably at a bargain price because of his numbers. But there's another player I want to bring up in terms of Arizona. Max Domi, 54 points as a rookie in 81 games, 38 points last year in 59 games, injury-riddled season. This year he has 3 goals in 42 games. Identifying players that are never going to reach their potential is difficult. Usually year 3/year 4, you're there. I don't think Max Domi is ever going to become that upper echelon forward that he was envisioned to be. He's got great speed. He is so much fun to watch. The numbers don't bear it out. And I know people are going to say, well, that's because of his teammates. That's the thing. GMs might be looking at Arizona right now and saying, you know what? Domi's numbers are low. What do you guys want for Domi? He is RFA at the end of this season. So if Arizona's still in a position where they don't want to be spending big money, and if they can envision Domi asking for $3 million or more, they might say, you know what? Cut our losses. If Arizona really wants to change the whole image of what this is, and as I said, I'm not even including players that aren't on expiring contracts other than 4 defensemen that are of interest, because everybody in the NHL wants defense. Domi and Duclair become very attractive, not necessarily as a package deal because I don't know that anybody could afford it, but I could totally see Domi being moved. I don't think Domi's a bust. Don't put words in my mouth. I don't think Domi's a bust. I do think that he needs a change. I do think that as his numbers continue to show signs of eroding, it's a sign that either it's a bad mix in Arizona or maybe he just doesn't have the hands that he was supposed to before he reached the NHL. But I have a hard time believing that because I saw him score some beauties. I've seen him score them. John Chayka's job may very well rely on what he does here. Duclair, Domi. Duclair's numbers for his career don't really distinguish him as being a lot worse than Domi. This year, you could argue he's been more effective than Domi. And that's the issue. Like, you look in their first year, and again, so I'll put Duclair here just to clear up any kind of confusion with the numbers. Their first year, there's 8 points between them. The second year, there's 1 game difference and 23 points between them. This year, there's 10 more games played for Domi, but only 5 points less for Duclair. Is Duclair getting better? His numbers wouldn't state that he is. Arizona's a tricky team to really properly assess because there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of players who are playing badly in Arizona. And maybe Rick Tocchet doesn't know how to deploy this kid. Maybe this kid should be playing tons more than what he is. I don't know what you'd get for Max Domi right now, but if you're Arizona, you're going to get more than you get for Duclair. You're not going to get a lot for these expiring contracts. You're not going to get a lot to work with. as an Arizona fan, if you believe in management and you believe that they have a vision and that they're right, then let them at least explore moving Max Domi at the deadline. See what kind of deal you can get back. And obviously you're going to want somebody on your roster back, or a top-notch prospect, and probably a first-rounder. I know it's crazy, and I know I'm going to take flack for mentioning it, but it's the thing that stands out to me when I look at Arizona's stats, is that Max Domi is not becoming the player that he was supposed to become. We all look back, and we all talk about Alex Daig, and we can all laugh about Alexander Daig and what he was. Alexander Daig was fine in the beginning of his career. His first couple of years, he was actually pretty darn good. And then it just sort of fell apart. And when Ottawa should have traded Daig, which was before it really fell apart, when he still looked like he had that potential, they didn't. So by the time Ottawa actually traded him, he didn't really have the value. They couldn't get back what they should have for an asset that still appeared to have that potential. Again, I'm not putting Domi in that category because we don't know yet. 10 years from now, I guarantee you, a lot of prospects that we talk about, we're going to talk about what busts they were at the NHL level. Because when you're grading 18-year-olds, it's virtually impossible to be right all the time. You can be right about the premier talents. But when you get beyond the top 2 or 3 draft picks in any draft, there is an element of uncertainty. And with Daig, the uncertainty became really apparent after a few years in the league. He's just probably never going to be what we thought he was going to be. Domi's value might be higher right now because he'd be he's not putting up great totals. So if he gets moved to a really good team, they might be able to keep him on a contract as an RFA for a really, really good bargain price. I'm looking at kind of Detroit with this one. I'm kind of looking at Toronto too. What kind of a home run would it be if Toronto could parlay assets to bring Max Domi into Toronto? So Ty Domi's kid is playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that would be a half decent fit. And maybe this kid would realize his potential. Duclair does not have the potential of Domi, and yet their numbers are getting closer to one another. So let me know what you guys think. If you're Arizona, who do you move out? Who do you move in? Which of these players go? And which of the guys that I didn't list, and I didn't list all their veteran talent, which of their veteran talent, and I'm thinking Stepan right off the bat, which of their veteran talent steps up and says, you know what, I don't want to be here either. Because Arizona's in that area where there may be other players who say, yeah, I'd rather go too. Maybe Duclair is the only one willing to say what other guys are thinking. So especially if you're a Coyotes fan, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And again, I'm not saying that Domi's a bust, because I know that's how this is going to come across. I'm saying, with the totals he's putting up, maybe it's time to explore moving him out. Just explore what you can get back. Because right now that name still has value. And for Toronto, it could have a lot of value. Again, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you again soon.